Okay, thanks for joining me on my channel. Today we're going to be discussing Section 8 housing for landlords, okay, and how it is pandemic-proof rental income, okay? Now I'm going to put up a strong case against a lot of these ridiculous videos I've seen on YouTube and other places, and that also compares the news agencies and newspapers, okay? So the first thing I'm going to discuss is, let's look at this as a serious thing, okay? You got all these landlords across the country. And those of you that like to rent market rate and you haven't got a penny in rent since March. Well, that's a pretty tough situation to be in. So can you guess what happens had you had Section 8 tenants? You would have been guaranteed direct deposit. And depending on the program they're in, you would have been direct deposit at least 70% of that rent up to 120%. So the people that are accepting Section 8 vouchers have very low risk. And they'll survive this pandemic almost untouched by it, okay? So in principle, those of you that argue the point, well, they have tenants to tear things up. Let me tell you something. If you don't think there aren't idiots on YouTube that go out into low-income areas, look for abandoned homes that have been trashed, they run their little video, they pretend like they're the landlord. I've seen lots of these fake videos. And it's, they do that to make nickels and dimes, on their little videos. So they make money off the video ads for making these ridiculous videos and making up these wild stories. Now, don't get me wrong. There are situations when it happens. But let me tell you, when a landlord shows a video about how a property got tore up, it's very simple. You get greedy. There's lots of ways to get greedy. Section 8 does allow people with a criminal history. They allow all kinds of people to get into the program. Yes, they pre-screen. But you know what? If you're not going to monitor your property, if you're not going to do monthly maintenance inspections, if you're not actually going to take this job seriously, and you're going to get greedy and just take any old idiot with a voucher in their hand into your property, then you're going to get precisely what you deserve, okay? Now, let's talk about my credentials when it comes to this, okay? So you've got people out here and you've got investors and landlords that pick up properties. They got 10, 15 units. They have their own YouTube channel, and they're out here talking all this shit about all different things. Let me tell you something. I deal with developers and investors. Right now, I've got one with a $20 million property, okay? I'm screening everybody for this guy. Another with a $7 million property, and a third in another city in California that has a $1 million property. What I do and how I work with landlords is I don't just help my landlords get 70% of the rent. I help them focus on getting tenants that have upwards of 100% payout on PSH. So, they make an excellent income. Or you can go and deal with your do-it-yourself video guys that are talking about all the little $60,000 little shacks that they're renting out. They're more like slumlords. And then they take whatever they can get so they keep that cash flow on. And then, they get upset when the property gets tore up because you don't want to do your due diligence, okay? So I don't, the thing about it is I don't give out Mickey Mouse advice, and I definitely don't deal with Mickey Mouse people giving out tips and tricks like it's a 5-minute crap channel, okay? This is not what I do. I have a stellar reputation on YouTube, and I consult with some of the biggest developers out there, when it comes to this. And let me tell you something. We screened the hell out of 200, 300, 400 people fill a building with responsible adults. And I'm going to tell you the ratio in which we have to deal with eviction and also properties getting tore up is less than a half. If I could take 1%, take a kitchen knife to that, chop it up about 100 times, that's about how often we have to deal with a bad tenant, okay? So it comes down to, do you know what the hell you're doing? Do you have a consultant, or are you good? Are you doing your due diligence with this process? Then you've got other people that like to get desperate, and they take their custom home with custom cabinets and beautiful stuff inside, and then they rent to the first family with a bunch of 5- and 6-year-olds with Play-Doh and Crayolas, and then they live out of state, they move out of state, and the house gets tore up. Well, whose fault is that? Do you not have any common sense? Look, if you understand what you're doing when you accept vouchers and you screen people beyond that and know how to focus on certain types of voucher holders, then you'll end up with an excellent investment that will continue to pay. Let me tell you something. These people talking about everybody's a drug addict and a prostitute that are in Section 8 houses, they're delusional, they're crazy, okay? People wait 10 years, sometimes 15 years to get a voucher, okay? By then, all the people that felt entitled and I can just get a voucher have already they've already disappeared and gone on to rent their own place. So what you have left after 10 years are people that are serious about getting this voucher. So do you think if you waited in line 10 years on a Black Friday sale to get a specific TV, that the first thing in your mind would be to tear up a property? No. Everybody that I've dealt with that has a Section 8 voucher, including my developers that have big properties, 200, 300, or even 1,000 units, will tell you that almost all the tenants are highly appreciative and they walk a very tight line. In other words, they're not going to do anything to have to get on another 20-year list, okay? So, what it comes down to, it's really just a foolproof income, but you must command respect from your tenants. You must do careful screening. And if you don't know the process as well as I do, then get a consultant like me, and you'll end up in a good situation. And, back to that other thing, a lot of you guys want to rent market rate. Well, if you don't think that normal people that rent normal apartments don't tear things up and have children that can write on the walls and kick holes, then you're crazy. That's just as simple as that. So let me give you some real statistics. A lot of you guys tend to be tilted into racism and bigotry and all these other things when you try to deal with it. African Americans do not represent the highest portion of people that tear things up and get evicted. Okay, you're crazy if you think that. In fact, most of our African American tenants, including women and children, do not represent the people that often tear things up. It's actually Caucasian people that are the biggest problem. Second to that, I'd like to say this, if you're not out there and you're not walking your property, you're not talking to your tenants, and you're not doing your monthly inspections, and then you get a bad one in your unit, they'll lease it out to a prostitute or a drug dealer, and you don't even know what's going on. So the reality is, it's completely your responsibility that you didn't take any responsibility. Otherwise, everybody that I've dealt with in landlords have been fine. Let me give you a great example. I've got a Christian couple in Chicago. They bought a property at a great deal, okay? And they inherited a bunch of Section 8 voucher holders, okay? None of these were on leases, okay? And this last landlord was a slumlord. He didn't care to do any interviews. And so what he ended up was, he just took anybody with a voucher. So what he got was the lunatics that keep floating around property to property and getting thrown out, okay? So when this couple got the property, I ended up having to go in, help them, and then evict them all, okay? Because we had a bunch of crazy people in there. So, on principle, just because Section 8 does screening doesn't mean anything. You've got to do your normal screening too. And I've got to tell you, if you do this right, you'll end up with a really good investment. A lot of the landlords, almost all my landlords, continue to add new properties, and the developers keep building more and more and more. There's a massive market. There's always a line. You don't even have to beg people to apply. There's so many people everywhere. So you need to really rethink, your concept and idea of Section 8 vouchers and whether or not people are African American and stuff like that, because that doesn't have anything to do with anything. You're playing off the politics of TV and the shameful act of YouTube people that like to make money, nickels and dimes off of videos, on this atrocious idea that everybody tears everything up, okay? Now look, if you want to have an older community of veterans and seniors and stuff like that, then select your tenants in that manner. If you want to have young families there, that's fine, but you need to be able to check things the same that you would as if you did market rate. So, another thing is, statistically speaking, there is a greater portion of people now willing to take Section 8 vouchers because it looks like the old market rate people just can't afford rent anymore. I mean, they're being evicted. There's a lot of middle-class people that weren't on Section 8 vouchers that cannot pay the rent and have not paid it since March. So I guess you really have to, the irony with that is rather interesting. Because while a lot of people reject the concept of accepting a Section 8 voucher, there's more reasons to have these people than anything. Like I said, they're grateful, they're appreciative, and the stigma that has been attached to this is completely absurd. It's confounded by a bunch of idiots on YouTube. And I can just tell you, And let me tell you, anybody wants to call me and talk to me, then I'll be more than happy to show you $7 and $20 million properties, give you references, and it would eclipse the clowns that I see on YouTube giving advice about their little shacks, okay? So let me encourage you folks, okay? If you're going to make a serious investment and survive a pandemic that may be a problem for us the next couple of years, then maybe you should take Housing Choice Voucher through Section 8 into your property. If you don't know how to screen people and you're too greedy to control yourself, then hire a consultant. Don't turn this stuff over to a management company, because they'll be the first ones to not give a shit, and then things will go really bad at that point, okay? So unless you have good money to pay a good maintenance company, then I would get a consultant. And to give you an example, your small landlords usually spend about $100 worth, a couple $100 worth of consultant, and my major developers spend anywhere from $1,000 to several $1,000, and then it's a great investment. It's a one-time investment to ensure that you have a playbook to work by, and then you can expect your losses to be at 1%. Now, the ordinary person out here that is accepting these vouchers that really doesn't know what they're doing, or they think they know what they're doing. I see a lot of I think I know what I'm doing people on YouTube, and their ratio of loss is around 14% or worse. So, you know, look, 10 years to wait, these people will be more than happy to move in, and you're guaranteed direct deposit. There's no excuses. Yes, they have to come up with a little bit of rent. Look, you can take seniors that already have, that receive direct deposit, Social Security checks on top of that, and then the rent's guaranteed, even if they only have a 70% payout through the federal government. So, you know, like I said, I call bullshit on a lot of these videos, and I just tell you, it's something to consider for the season. You know, there's a lot of people out there now that are middle class that need a place to live, and you've got a guaranteed deposit check until they die or move out, all right? Look, it's been good talking to you folks, and I'm glad we could just keep it real. Thank you. Bye.